things that I've read and about it and different interviews that he's done going into some of the theories about it. But he has a super interesting take on the whole Rendlesham Forest thing, where he kind of dug into one guy in particular. His name's Ray Boucher, and he was the former Raybo. He was the former director of the Fortean Research Center. And apparently he was like obsessed with Rendlesham, and he was just trying to get information out of one particular senator, I think was the story, in the UK, just trying to get to the truth of this whole thing. And basically just broke the senator down, and he finally said the whole thing was one big government experiment. And what he laid out, and it wasn't just from him, there's... once he found this information, Nick sort of digs deeper into if this is, possibly true. So just in a nutshell, Nick's whole theory is that Rendlesham was the result of government experimentation on these soldiers, which is interesting because it was US soldiers in the UK that were experimented on. So I don't know if the UK was experimenting on the US soldiers without the America's knowledge, or if they did it in a joint thing. I don't know. It's kind of weird. But basically he was saying the use of this high-tech holographic technology was used in conjunction with aerosolized hallucinogens that were sprayed throughout the Rendlesham Forest during that time. And there's a bunch of different things.
All right, hold on. Let's just pause.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
do you guys?
I say.
Sounds like you guys have some questions.
Fucking add Bigfoot in that story. It's ridiculous. Like, they sprayed the forest with hallucinogens. I want that gun. Is it like a Nerf gun? You just spray shit like walking
spraying LSD. Yeah.
High?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Kids.
Yeah, man. I mean, just that might
fun.
be. That's one of those explanations where, like, I came up with a theory that fits and perfectly makes the story work. But it's more ridiculous than aliens. Like, aliens is ridiculous, but it's more likely than that craziness. Hold on, give me some proof. Hold on, I'm just taking a shit on it.
I'm going to back it up. All right, what do you got?
All right.
Come on,
Josh,
me, bro.
Do it.
Come at me.
Oh no, I was waiting for you to give proof of like why is Nick saying this? Like that's what I need to know before I. Just
so there's a bunch of different things he points to, and like I said, I haven't done like a point for point review of the whole book, but I will get it at some stage.
Yeah,
but so
just read a review
apparently there was numerous reports of hazmat suited people from
Atlantis. Hazmat suits from Atlantis.
From Atlantis, yeah. They were dressed as werewolves.
This is so crazy.
No.
Like, literally, like, Jim Penniston touching a craft seems, like, more likely than any of that. Okay, keep going. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like the research that he's done, but in order for all of this to come together, it's such an elaborate, hugely, like, crazy scheme where... Right. All these different bits and pieces have to come together at the right time to trick a group of US soldiers into believing they just had contact with an alien race is just fucking mind-boggling. But I appreciate where Nick was going with this. So there was a series of reports from a bunch of different witnesses who saw lab personnel dressed in hazmat suits from Porton Down, which, if you know your World War II history, was where they... was the lab that tested LSD on unsuspecting villagers, and I think there was soldiers as well. There's that footage that you see where they're like running through the forest and they're just going fucking batshit crazy.
Oh yeah, they're all smiley. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, they're tripping balls on LSD basically, and it was like a shit show. But they, without their knowledge, were basically testing chemical weapons on these guys. So there were people in hazmat suits with the Porton Down logo, I guess, on it, who was spotted in that forest spraying things right before this happened, right before Rendlesham. There was... what else?
Well, okay, all right. Like, okay.
Hang on.
There was dudes out there in white suits just like spraying trees down. Because hallucinogenics, they totally like hang in the air for like hours until someone happens to walk through it.
I have so many questions. How long did they know? Like they were spraying this stuff. Like how long does it hang in the air to like before?
I don't know.
Before contact. I mean.
Yeah. So a lot of this stuff, like I said, it's an interesting theory, but for me, and usually I would like really hop on this devil's advocate thing and really sort of push back on these stupid, crazy stories. But this one, just like the pushback on this one, I don't know, Nick Redfern, I love you, but this one, I'm not sure about.
Yeah, just to be clear, I love Nick too. I've read like several of his books. Yeah, I mean he's great. But this one, I know you know what though, I appreciate when you're going for weird shit and you're trying to cover weird shit. You got to go for all the angles, so I don't mind it. Like we kid here, but like,
yeah. I mean he himself says like this is a theory. And
well, I read some part of somebody's review of it, and it said that I guess like a couple nights before they were doing a test where a bunch of soldiers were doing some kind of night. Like they were like jumping secretly into the forest, just I don't know. They were testing some stuff, and then the soldiers from Bentwaters base came and like beat them up or something, and they were pissed. So they were like, "Let's do some psychedelic warfare, man, on these guys," and like fuck up their lives. Yeah. But I'm like, what? I mean, hold on a second. If you're doing a stealthy jump into the forest, isn't the whole game that you survive? And if you get beat up, isn't that the whole thing?
There's a bunch of different theories on Rendlesham in general. Like even before there's alien theory, there's this experiment theory. Apart from those two, there's so many different crazy theories on what was going on, including that it was just like one big elaborate hoax prank that the English played on the Americans. I don't know. But anyway,
can we talk about the psychedelic thing for a second? That's like that classic, like ignorant, like statement that everyone says that has really no merit. Like that thing where like it's like, sir, were you drinking alcohol when you saw the UFO? Were you smoking the wacky tobacco? It's like anyone who smoked weed saw a UFO, like because weed made you hallucinate a UFO. That's not how it works. Even psychedelics, like people assume just because you're on a psychedelic, you see like 3-dimensional objects in space that seem real to you. Like that's not how it goes. That's just like a misconception. So even if someone on psychedelic really saw a UFO, I wouldn't trust them as much, but at the same time, it's really hard to conjure a UFO that you slowly walk up to touch that gives you a bunch of ones and zeros that you write down later that has a very specific message like that. That's not a psychedelic.
Yeah.
Anyways,
and that's one of the.
And they deleted that part of the story, by the way. Like it's nowhere on the internet anymore.
That's one of the for sure. That's one of the aspects that don't kind of line up for me as well. But having said that, it wasn't just the psychedelics. And what they explain is this is like a really low dose of psychedelics, and it's more to open up. It was in conjunction with a technology that was some sort of holographic technology, and
we know that. Before you go on, like we know that could be real based on our research. Like there could be technology that could do convincing holographs that people wouldn't know the difference, and you could also make people feel that they're seeing something significant too, which is crazy. Anyways, go on.
Yeah, so a low dose of hallucinogens and holographic imagery that's being played in front of them all. But it also, I think Jenny Randles was one of the researchers who looked into this notion as well, that they had some sort of technology. There was some sort of government military technology where the hologram was almost like a physical thing that you could touch and you could feel heat off, and it was like it wasn't just a projection of an image. It was like a physical thing that was being projected. So this is the kind of stuff that Nick goes into as well.
Okay, well, hey, I'll have to read the book.
Yeah, but we've never heard of that before. Like, it's like we've never heard of this like holographic you can touch thing before that the government has had it before. This is the only time that it has ever come out. And
they had it in the 80s.
It was based on what Nick was able to get.
It's like those big cell phones.
Right? Yeah, the big bricks. Yeah, what Nick was able to get through Freedom of Information Act was also a in the UK, they were testing this idea of using ball lightning as being able to generate ball lightning and use it as a weapon, but not just a weapon, but use it as for psychological warfare. What came out of these documents that he was digging up about the experimentation into ball lightning was apparently exactly what was described as being seen in the Rendlesham case, the lights in the sky and all that sort of stuff. Apparently it was like spitting image of what was happening.
Yeah, but there were several things that were happening. There was a triangle that landed, and then there was lights in the sky.
Yes.
So, like,
yeah, so
again,
it was over a few days.
Insert Bigfoot in and like unicorns. I mean, let's just do that.
Listen, I won't have you bespeech the name of Bigfoot with fucking unicorns, Melissa.
Unicorns are real and they're beautiful.
How dare you? You know what? Fuck you. No. So, I mean, there's a few different things I thought when I was listening to Nick sort of explain his theory. Beforehand, radar picked up something flying through, apparently, right? That was part of the story. So
Correct.
If it was a hologram, would that show up on radar? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Would it? I mean, I don't know. If it's a hologram, why would it show? I mean, the reason why you would use a hologram is because it probably couldn't get picked up by radar.
Yeah.
And another thing that they erased from the stories that I saw online from when I reported on it in 2010 is all the people that were working in the radar tower who reported it and were in contact with Peniston and Burroughs the whole time until like they blacked out.
Yeah, were they tripping balls too?
Those
yeah, that's right.
Have
Yes.
disappeared now. They don't
They
even
put something
exist.
in their coffee. Yeah.
So there's also the physical aspect of what was going on. So there was the Peniston. He was touching the ship. So
Of course he was. Of course.
there's an explanation for that. And there was also like indentations on the ground.
Stop it.
Sorry, I ruined everything. Indentations on the ground. Come back to me, guys.
It was dry.
But these are the things that Nick sort of
Somebody sprayed LSD in here. I don't know. It's too crazy.
It's giving me the giggle. But Nick sort of explains these things, but his explanations, I just feel like... So the whole radar thing, he goes into, well, there was this guy who came up with this ability to falsify radar data and was able to, like, fuck with people's radar systems. So maybe they used that. And I was like,
Ooh, it's a deep
okay,
conspiracy. Oh.
maybe they didn't too. You know, so like as much as I love Nick and like I think maybe he has a solid case for some things, but he also readily admits, look, this is not a watertight theory. There are things that don't quite fit. It's not quite as smooth, but I feel like, you know, a few bits and pieces here are kind of interesting. Are they?
I mean, it sounds bad.
We're never ever going to get Nick on the show.
I actually believe that the craft landed, and he touched it, and he drew a bunch of zeros and ones. I mean, it seems like more plausible at this point. I remember that there were two people in that tower that got questioned. There was a woman, and there was a guy, and I have not seen them in any documentation because I just, I looked the last couple days, and they have somehow disappeared from the report, which I find odd.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
I mean, there seems to be so much to this story, and I think, like an idea like this, like I said, while pretty fascinating, it's such an elaborate, like hugely complex hoax I call it a hoax, but experimentation, let's say, to pull off just to see what people do, But at the same time,
right.
Maybe it's possible. We know that your governments have tested on their own people in the past. So, that part of it is not completely
Well,
out there.
that's true, yeah. One of my favorite movies of all time was Jacob's Ladder, and the whole movie was like just his dying brain firing after a crazy LSD trip where they all kill each other. I mean, that movie's intense, but no, that's true. They
Spoiler alert, guys.
Well,
God
spoiler,
damn.
it came out in the 80s. You haven't seen it yet. Like, yeah, no, that movie's amazing. That's a top 20 movie for me. It's just deep. That shit is deep and weird, and it gets really dark.
So I'll just finish with this. So apparently, I was listening to a couple of Nick Redfern interviews, and he mentioned specifically that Burroughs was kind of open to Nick's idea. He wasn't completely shut off in the whole, hey, we just saw an alien ship, which I thought was interesting. So maybe in the book, had we have read it, maybe it explained it a lot better than I did. Again, my apologies. But Jim Peniston, is he still alive? He's going to hunt me down and punch me in the nose, isn't he? He basically was like, fuck off, fucking Redfern. Stick it up your ass. Yeah, so he doesn't buy this at all. He believes it was a physical thing. It was a craft that he touched. Obviously, he has much more information than just like I went and touched a craft and wow.